The medical station floated quietly above the blue moon of Calorie 9. Inside, bright white lights hummed softly. Robots moved in silence. The air smelled clean and cold. Lyra, an alien nurse with silver blue skin and large violet eyes, stood in the exam room. She was calm, focused. She had cared for many species before, but never a human. Today was her first time. The door opened with a hiss. 2 security bots rolled in, carrying a bed. On the bed lay a tall man, unconscious. His skin was pale. His chest rose and fell slowly. "This is the human?" Lyra asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," said the medical AI. "Name, Eli Carter, age 29. Species, human male. Status, stable but injured." Lyra looked at the man. He had a small cut above his eye. His leg was wrapped in bandages. His chest was covered in bruises. "What happened to him?" she asked. "Crashed during an asteroid run. His ship was attacked. He escaped, barely." Lyra nodded and moved closer. She touched a small device to Eli's forehead. The scanner beeped and began a full body check. Heart rate, normal. Brain activity, normal. Blood pressure, high. And then, a red light appeared on the screen. Warning: inflammation detected in lower abdominal region. Unknown cause. Lyra stared at the screen, confused. Inflammation? She checked again. The scanner blinked red. She looked down at the human's body. The swelling was strange. It didn't match any injury. Lyra stepped back. "Is he in pain?" "No," the AI said. "He's resting." "But this swelling, it's not normal," the AI answered flatly. "Human biology is unpredictable. Monitor only. Do not interfere." Lyra frowned. She had studied over 300 species. She knew how muscles, hearts, and brains worked. But this was different. "Maybe it's a strange human illness," she whispered. She picked up her datapad and wrote, "Patient Eli Carter shows strong physical reaction in region 11B. Possible inflammation. Possibly dangerous. Observation required." A few hours later, Eli woke up. His eyes opened slowly. He blinked a few times and turned his head. The first thing he saw was Lyra, tall, glowing, alien. He gasped, "Whoa, where am I?" "You are safe," Lyra said. "You are in Med Station 6. I am your assigned nurse." Eli looked around, confused but calm. "Med Station, oh, right, crash, pain." "You were lucky," she said. "Your body is healing fast." Eli chuckled. "Humans are tough." Lyra tilted her head. "You have a strange swelling." Eli's face turned red. "Wait, what?" She held up the scanner. "Your lower region is enlarged. I recorded it as inflammation. I need to understand the cause." Eli covered his face with his hand and laughed awkwardly. "Oh no," Lyra frowned. "Is this dangerous?" "No," Eli said quickly. "It's not inflammation, it's just a human reaction. Natural." She looked confused. "To what?" He scratched his head. "To being close to someone. Touch. Feeling safe, trust." Lyra blinked. "Your body changes shape because of trust?" Eli nodded. "Kinda. It's a human thing. Not dangerous, just embarrassing." Lyra stared at him for a moment. "I must study this more." Eli raised his eyebrows. "Please don't." Later that night, Lyra sat alone at her desk. She typed notes on her datapad. Human biology includes emotional physical responses, reactions caused by trust or bonding, misread by scanners as inflammation. She paused. She remembered how Eli smiled, how he laughed nervously, how he tried to explain something so private with honesty. It was strange, but also fascinating. She stood and walked back to his room. He was asleep again, peaceful, breathing slowly. She scanned him once more, gently, without touching. The red light didn't flash this time. Instead, the scanner showed something else. Emotional. Link forming. Subject at ease with caretaker. Lyra stared at the message. She had never seen this alert before. Was this love? Was this what humans called connection? She didn't understand it, but deep inside she felt something warm, a quiet curiosity. Maybe this human wasn't just a patient. Maybe he was a lesson. Lyra couldn't stop thinking about it. The swelling, the scan alert, the emotional link warning. No patient had ever caused this much confusion before, and certainly no human had. She looked at Eli's file again. The words, emotional response detected, physical trigger, trust, blinked softly across the screen. Trust causes this kind of change in the human body. She had studied war wounds, diseases, and alien parasites, but this was something else. The next morning, Eli stretched on the bed and let out a loud yawn. "Ow," he muttered, holding his ribs. "Still hurts, but not as bad." Lyra entered the room holding a datapad. She stood at his bedside, staring straight into his eyes. "I have questions." Eli blinked. "Morning to you too. I need to understand your earlier body reaction," she said seriously. "When I touched you, the inflammation appeared. Then it faded." Eli turned red instantly. "Oh, come on, you're really going to bring that up?" "Yes," she said. "It's important." Eli looked away. "All right. But it's not medical. It's emotional. Happens when a human feels something strong." Lyra narrowed her eyes. "Like fear?" "No," he said. "More like trust, connection, attraction." Lyra typed quickly on her pad. "So it is not an infection?" "No," Eli groaned. "Just natural." Lyra stared. "Is it painful?" Eli shook his head. "No, just really awkward when your nurse is staring at it." Later that day, Lyra walked past the other alien nurses in the hallway. She kept her datapad close to her chest. Nurse Valen stopped her. "Still with the human?" "Yes," Lyra said. "You should request a transfer." Valen smirked. "Humans are strange, emotional, weak." Lyra looked down at her pad. Her notes glowed brightly. "Humans react with emotion, but this creates stronger healing effects than medicine." "No," she replied softly. "He is different." That night, Lyra returned to Eli's room to run a standard check. As she scanned his chest, the machine beeped softly. Emotional level. Elevated. Lyra looked at him. "Are you in pain?" "No," Eli said, his voice quieter. "Just thinking." "About what?" He looked at her. "Back on Earth, nurses don't sit with you after work. They don't ask you how you feel." Lyra tilted her head. "Is that bad?" Eli smiled. "No, it's nice." The scanner blinked red again. Lyra didn't even flinch this time. She wrote, "Emotional spikes may increase during moments of comfort and trust." Later, in her quarters, Lyra sat in silence. She remembered the way he looked at her. Not afraid. Not like an alien. Like someone who mattered. She whispered to herself, "Can trust really heal more than science?" She had seen scars vanish slowly with medicine, but now she saw the change with her own eyes. Faster heartbeat, steadier breathing, better sleep. And every time she walked in the room, Eli smiled. Suddenly her console flashed. Unauthorized access. Human subject file. Lyra's heart jumped. She ran to the screen. Someone had tried to open Eli's emotional scan data. She opened the security log. Access request, Dr. Corin. High clearance. Why? Why would the chief medical officer want emotional data on a human patient? Her hands shook. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It was danger. She looked at the closed door to her room, then back at the screen. Her eyes narrowed. I must protect the human, not because of rules, not because of duty, but because something inside her had changed, something she couldn't explain yet. Lyra wasn't supposed to ask questions. She wasn't supposed to feel anything. She was trained. to heal, to scan, to follow protocol. But ever since Eli arrived, her thoughts were not quiet anymore. The next day, the medical center felt colder. Lights flickered slightly. Security drones moved slower. Lyra walked through the long white hallway, her steps silent. But her mind raced. She had seen the access logs. Dr. Corin had opened Eli's emotional file. Why? She entered the central archive, looking both ways. If anyone saw her here, she could lose her job, but she needed answers. The door hissed open. Inside, shelves of glowing data crystals floated in perfect rows. She searched quickly until she found the Human Emotional Responses section. It was small, only 3 entries. She inserted one into the reader. A hologram appeared. A recorded voice spoke. Humans show rapid biological change when touched by those they trust. These changes were once believed to be weakness, but under observation, they created strength. Another file showed battlefield footage. A human soldier, nearly dead, is helped up by a comrade. After a short embrace, his vitals spiked and he stood again, fighting stronger than before. The file ended with one line. Connection is power. Lyra's hand shook. Behind her, the door hissed again. She turned fast. Too fast. Dr. Corin entered. Tall, cold eyes like sharp ice. You're not assigned here, he said. I needed more information for the patient, Lyra replied calmly. You mean the human, he said with a smirk. Strange creature. Too emotional, too dangerous. He is kind, Lyra said. Dr. Corin stepped closer. And what will you do when he turns on you? When he uses that kindness to control you? Lyra didn't blink. He has not hurt me, yet, the doctor whispered. Then he turned and walked away. Back in her room, Lyra stared at her own reflection. Why do they fear emotion? Why do they fear humans? She opened her scan files again. Eli's body was healing, faster than average, and every time he looked at her, his body grew stronger. But her heart was also changing. The next morning, she entered Eli's room. He was awake, looking out the small window at the stars. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep, he replied. Nightmares? No, he said with a soft smile. Just wondering if you'd come back. She stood beside him, silent. He looked at her. You okay? She hesitated. Then she sat down beside him. No, she said quietly. Something is wrong. What happened? They're watching your files, she whispered. Your emotions, your reactions, they think it's dangerous. Eli laughed a little. Well, I have been called emotionally unstable. This is not a joke, she said. I know. He replied gently. But I'm not scared, not when you're here. The scanner beeped softly, another alert. Emotional link deepening, subject calm. Lyra didn't touch her datapad. This time, she just looked at him. Eli reached out, slowly, carefully. He touched her hand. It was warm. She didn't pull away. That night, someone tried to break into Eli's room. The alarms went off for only 2 seconds before shutting down. Lyra arrived seconds later. No one was there. But on the wall, scratched into the screen, was a warning. He does not belong here. She stared at the message for a long time, then whispered, Neither do I. The lights in the medical station flickered again, but this time, they didn't come back on. Lyra stood still in the hallway, her eyes adjusting to the red backup glow. A low siren buzzed quietly, soft enough to not wake patients, but loud enough for staff to know something was wrong. Her heart raced. She didn't need a scanner to know where the danger was. Eli. She ran toward his room. The door was open, and the bed was empty. A chill passed through her. Her hands shook slightly. Eli? She whispered. No answer. She tapped her wrist pad. It beeped once, then glitched. The screen flashed. Human subject. Location signal blocked. That had never happened before. Eli was missing, and someone had turned off his tracking chip. Lyra's mind spun fast. Who would do this? Only someone with high clearance. Only someone who didn't want her to find him. Dr. Corin. She left the medwing and entered the research zone, unauthorized territory for nurses. The doors opened with her stolen override chip. The halls were darker here, colder. She followed, faint footprints glowing on the floor, heat traces from Eli's body. They led to Observation Room 7, a restricted lab used only for classified tests. She pressed her hand to the glass, and inside, Eli was strapped to a chair, wires attached to his arms, scanners floating around his head. He looked weak, pale, and in front of him, Dr. Corin. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She activated the hidden mic on the glass. "We don't need his body," Corin said. "Just the brain activity during the emotional spikes." "But he's a person," one assistant whispered. "He's a subject," Corin snapped. "Emotions are weapons, and we're going to find out how they work." Lyra had heard enough. She stormed down the hall, opened the emergency panel, and pulled out a stun baton. She had never used a weapon before, but tonight, she would. She returned to the door and forced it open. The room lights burst as she stepped in. Everyone turned. Dr. Corin's eyes widened. "You don't belong here." "I do now," she said, voice low. "Let him go." Corin laughed. "You don't understand. He's changing you, softening your mind." Lyra stepped closer. "No, he's showing me something you fear." Corin tilted his head. "What's that?" She pointed at Eli. "Connection." Then she struck the power core with the baton. Sparks exploded. The scanners went dark. The straps released. Lyra grabbed Eli as he fell forward. His body was cold. "I've got you," she whispered. He looked up weakly. "Took you long enough." They ran. Alarms blared behind them. Drones buzzed in the halls. Corin shouted orders. "Block the exits. Shut down the tunnels." But Lyra knew the station better than anyone. She led Eli down a side hall, through a service hatch, and into a dark maintenance tunnel. Here, no cameras watched, no bots followed, only silence, only them. They crawled for a while before reaching a storage room. She closed the door and locked it from the inside. Eli leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "That was insane." She nodded. "You're safe now." He looked at her. "Why did you come for me?" She paused, then said softly, "Because no one came for me when I needed help." Eli reached out and took her hand. "Thank you, Lyra." For the first time, she smiled, a small, real smile. But far above, in the control center, Corin watched the map. A blinking red dot moved slowly through the lower decks. He smiled too. "They can run," he said, "but they won't get far." The vents were getting smaller. Lyra crawled ahead, her body pressed tight against the metal tunnel. Behind her, Eli groaned softly, struggling to keep up. "We need a better escape plan," he whispered. Lyra paused and looked back. "This is the escape plan." He gave a tired smile. "Remind me to file a complaint." They had been crawling through the old service tunnels for over an hour now. These parts of the station were unused, forgotten, full of dust, darkness, and echoing metal. Lyra pulled up her wrist pad. Signal blocked. Location unknown. Time left. "Before oxygen refresh, 23 minutes. We can't stay here long," she said. "Then where are we going?" Eli asked. She answered without looking back. "To the last place they think I'd take you." The launch bay. Above them, Dr. Corin's voice echoed through the speakers. "Nurse Lyra, you are now considered rogue. Surrender the human. You will not survive otherwise." Eli laughed softly. "You've made quite the reputation." Lyra didn't smile. "He thinks fear will stop me." "Will it?" She stopped crawling and looked him in the eyes. "No, not anymore." They finally dropped into a maintenance corridor. Dim orange lights flickered above them. Lyra helped Eli to his feet. He was slower now, weaker. His body was reacting to the emotional overdrive from the testing earlier. His skin was cold, his voice quiet. Lyra, I don't think I can make it much farther. She wrapped her arms around him. You will. I don't know how. She leaned in close and whispered, because I'm not leaving you behind. The scanner on her arm beeped softly. Emotional link. Deepening. Human vitals stabilizing. But outside the corridor, a squad of security drones rolled in. 4, total. Fast. Armed. The first one scanned the air and beeped loudly. Subject located. Lyra pulled Eli into a storage pod and sealed it shut. Stay here. He grabbed her hand. What are you doing? She looked at him. Buying us time. She stepped out into the hallway. The drones moved fast. One fired. Lyra dodged, rolled, and slammed her baton into the nearest unit. Sparks flew. It exploded. Another fired at her leg, grazing her. She winced, but didn't fall. Her hands moved like lightning. 2 more drones down. But the last one sent a pulse shock, and Lyra dropped to her knees, shaking. Suddenly, the storage pod door burst open. Eli stepped out holding a broken pipe. Get away from her! He yelled. He smashed the last drone with full force. The pipe bent, but the drone sparked and collapsed. He knelt beside her. Are you okay? Lyra blinked, then nodded. I am now. The hallway was quiet again, but time was running out. The launch bay was close. They reached the doors, tall, silver, locked. Lyra scanned her hand. Access denied. Corin had blocked her. But then, Eli stepped forward. He pressed his hand to the emergency override switch. Voice match. Pilot Eli Carter. Emergency protocol activated. The doors opened. Lyra stared at him. He shrugged. Guess they forgot to delete my credentials. Inside was a small escape pod. Old, dusty, but still working. They entered fast. Lyra started the sequence. Eli sat beside her, breathing hard. I don't know where we're going, she said. Anywhere's better than here, he replied. The pod powered up. Countdown. 10, 9, 8. But then, the screen flashed. Manual override detected. Launch blocked. Lyra's eyes widened. He's stopping us. On the screen, Dr. Corin's face appeared. Going somewhere? He asked coldly. Lyra stepped forward. We're not your subjects anymore. Corin smiled. You were never free. You just didn't know the cage. Lyra didn't blink. Then it's time to break the cage. She pulled out the last thing she had hidden. A data spike. She jammed it into the control port. The pod systems rebooted. Launch override bypassed. 2, 1. The pod launched. Explosions shook the walls behind them as they shot into space. Eli leaned back, closing his eyes. We made it. Lyra watched the stars pass by. We're not safe yet, she said, but we're finally free. The stars outside were silent, but inside the escape pod, the silence was heavy. Eli stared at the floor. His hands trembled. His skin was pale again. Lyra sat beside him, her back pressed to the cold wall. Her eyes didn't glow like before. They looked tired, but still sharp, still strong. They had escaped, but the danger wasn't over. Not yet. The pod's nav system blinked. Destination reached. Orion Medical Assembly. Sector Court ELI looked at the message. This is where we stand trial? Lyra nodded. They called an emergency council. For us? For me? She said softly. I broke protocol. I disobeyed orders. I helped a patient escape. Eli turned toward her. You saved me. Not everyone sees it that way. The pod docked. 2 peace officers stood at the gate, neutral faces, no weapons drawn. But they were firm. This way, one of them said. Lyra walked quietly. Eli followed, limping slightly. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. The courtroom was a silver dome, with blue crystal walls. Alien leaders from different species sat in tall chairs, eyes watching. At the center, Dr. Corin. He stood proudly, hands behind his back. Nurse Lyra, the lead judge said, voice deep and echoing. You are charged with protocol violation, emotional misconduct, and assisting a patient in escaping lawful detention. How do you plead? Lyra raised her chin. I did all of it. Gasps echoed across the room. Corin smiled. You see? She admits her crime. Lyra continued. But I would do it again. The judge leaned forward. Explain. She looked around the room, then pointed to Eli. This human was not treated like a patient. He was treated like a subject, a tool. His feelings, his trust, his healing process were ignored. He is emotional, Corin said loudly. That is their weakness. Lyra turned to him. No, that is their strength. Another murmur filled the chamber. Lyra stepped forward. During my care, I noticed something our scanners never told us. When this human trusted me, he healed faster, stronger, better than medicine alone. She held up her pad. Data confirms. The emotional connection increases recovery in humans, maybe in others too. The judge looked at Corin. Why did you order emotional scans to be blocked from record? Corin hesitated. Because it was a distraction, he said. Eli finally spoke. You erased what made me human, he said. You called it infection, but all I did was trust someone who cared. The room grew quiet. Then the lead judge stood. We have heard enough. We will now vote. Lights above each seat began to blink. One green, then another, and one red from Corin. But it wasn't enough. Majority. Not guilty. Lyra let out a slow breath. Eli smiled. Told you they'd listen. The judge raised a hand. One final note. Lyra, you are cleared of all charges. However, she tensed. Your service will no longer be at the station. Her eyes widened. Am I being removed? No, the judge replied. You are being reassigned. He stepped down and handed her a silver badge. Emotional Integration Specialist, first of your kind. Lyra looked at Eli, surprised. He grinned. Told you, you're not just a nurse anymore. She looked back at the council. And him? The judge nodded. He will remain with you, by request. As they left the courtroom, Eli whispered, What now? Lyra smiled. Now, we teach them what healing really means. The medical satellite drifted quietly above a peaceful moon. But inside, everything had changed. Where once there were cold white halls and silent scanners, now there were smiles, conversations, and a soft warmth in the air. At the center of this change stood Lyra, no longer just a nurse, now the galaxy's first emotional integration specialist, and beside her, always, was Eli. Lyra entered the new recovery wing, where patients from many species rested. She walked slowly, carefully greeting each one, not with a scan but with her voice. How do you feel today? She asked a green-skinned merchant with 3 arms. Nervous, he replied softly. Would you like company while you rest? He nodded. She sat with him. No needles, no machines, just presence. Eli watched from across the hall, arms folded. He smiled. She's not just healing them, he whispered. She's changing everything. Later, in their shared quarters, Lyra placed her datapad on the table. New reports came in, she said. Healing speed is up by 46% when emotional care is added. Eli raised his eyebrows. That much? She nodded. Across 5 species. He grinned. I guess hugs really do work. Lyra tilted her head. I have seen no evidence that your human hugs are magical. He laughed. Then allow me to continue the research. He gently pulled her into a soft, warm hug. She didn't resist, and this time her scanner didn't beep. It simply glowed green. Weeks passed. News spread. Other med centers began copying Lyra's method. Some resisted, some laughed, but patients wanted it. They wanted connection. They wanted care. They wanted what Lyra gave. One day, the Galactic Medical Code was updated. A new rule was added. Simple. Short. True healing requires more than science. It requires heart. They called it Lyra's Law. Back at the station, Lyra stood on the balcony with Eli looking at the stars. She was quiet. He nudged her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I'm just thinking." "About what?" She looked at him. "Back when I first met you, I thought your reaction was an illness." Eli chuckled. "The inflammation incident?" "Yeah, I remember. I didn't understand what your body was trying to say," she said softly. "But now, I do," he smiled. "And what was it saying?" She turned to him, eyes glowing gently. "It was saying, I trust you." They stood together, two beings from different worlds, brought together not by orders, not by rules, but by something deeper, something no scanner could fully measure. Connection, choice, healing, and, out there in the galaxy, change had already begun because of a curious nurse, and the human who trusted her.